I'm Paul Hebert, and I'm from geographically West Hyannisport, but welcome to Cape Cod. My mail comes through Centerville. My post office box is in West Hyannisport, but geographically on my deed, it's West Hyannisport. So pick which one you want, but technically it's Hyannis. I think originally arriving, I came here in 1981 to take a position, and so it's just a beautiful place to live, as you know, and it's a great town. It took me a little while to settle in, but just arriving here and coming here from Fall River area, not that far away, but coming for work. So I graduated in 1967, and that was at Somerset High School. And so I'm sorry, you said when did I graduate? And yeah, from Somerset High School, yeah. Well, back then, the big issue was we were pretty serious. I mean, the Vietnam War was going on, and that was very scary times, and politically we were looking at a country quite getting more and more divided on the whole issue. There was also a draft in place. High school was, I mean, we were focused, and I go back to, back then, if you had a can of beer to share with your friends, it was a big deal. You know, the guys would talk about they had a can of beer that they stole from their father the night before. So we didn't have the issues of the drug or the heavy drinking, or the CYO dances were still alive and well, and the high school dances were well, and life was very good, very family-centered. But again, the increasing conflict in Vietnam was on most people's minds. Okay, so actually when I was elected, so the people are my boss. I was elected 3 years ago for my first term, and it was a 2-year term because of the census and how that all goes. So I was, a year ago, was elected to a 4-year term. So the people of Barnstable are my boss. I always use the word, it's very interesting, followed by, it's a very serious job, and something that really consumes a lot of time. It's not about just coming here on Thursday night, and there is quite a bit of prep work. You do get calls from constituents. They're not a lot, but when they do call you, it's pretty serious. It's weighing on them, whatever their issue is, whether it's speeding on their road, which is a big issue in our town, or the pothole, the famous pothole, or the road wasn't plowed in time. But those have been most of them. The shooting range was a very big issue and continues to be in many people's minds. Then the pollution that kind of went on to now we're into the wells. So you get phone calls about that, but you also have to do due diligence and doing as much research as you can so you can be as informed as you can. But then again, I feel like we don't have enough conversation within the council. So I am, since I've been on the council, the only one who has invoked the charter objection on an issue so that we would have more discussion. So, and I had just learned that you could do that, so it was very, very interesting. All of a sudden it came to me, I said, we haven't talked about this long enough. I knew it wouldn't change the vote, but the conversation was very, very important. And so I used charter objection, so it was pretty interesting. I think that we're a town that is changing and developing, at the same time trying to hold on to a past and knowing how to let go of that and to accept who we are. I once said, and people seem to take offense, I said, I'm not sure we know who we are yet. And people got a little upset about that. What do you mean? We know who we are. And I said, well, I don't think we do, because we fast have lost track of where we came from. Many of us came from other places. There's not that many real Cape Codders. People come here to retire and come to work and various things. And we have a lot of challenges. And I'm just going to throw this out. It's a nasty word, but you know, we're not a little village anymore. We are a town made up of villages that has its own issues, because we sometimes tend to think of ourselves much more parochial, looking at their village instead of looking at the whole town and what that means. So Hyannis, in many ways, protects all the villages, because this is the center of commerce and this is the busy, and so therefore villages can remain the villages and not go through major changes. But at the same time, I need for our villages to appreciate who we are here in Hyannis. Oh, it's always going to go back to our people. Our people are caring, passionate, I think very compassionate in terms of caring for one another. We have a very well-educated population. We have a great school system. So people who arrive, you know, the community college is blessed. You got professors who have retired here from major universities that contribute to our whole sense of ourselves. We're certainly a very cultural community with our arts of all types, whether it's music or art or poetry or writing. I mean, we are a conglomerate of very cultured, educated, caring people. I think that's what makes us a great community. I guess I would have to say, really the fall. It's just beautiful here. It's more peaceful, and that is nothing negative about the tourist, but life does slow down here. It's not so focused on making the money. It's more looking at who we are. We kind of meet each other again. You can walk the beach and sometimes be the only person on the beach. It's just a quieter more time. You're not as hot, and you haven't gotten as cold yet. So I think the fall for me is just the greatest. Yeah, there's just so many, really. Certainly, yeah, I'm a stone's throw practically from Craigville Beach. We're actually 6/10 of a mile, so we're not too worried about the hurricanes and the tides and when those come along. But certainly, it's just great to be so close to the water. And then when I want the opposite of that, I really go to Route 6A and just travel down there, and all of a sudden there's the huge trees, and you feel like you're closer to the forest. So you got both sides, and so. A lot of beautiful places. Whoa. We've done so well, but like every community of any size, our infrastructure is hurting. Our roads are what they are, and they've been around for a while, and so we have to look at that. The wastewater, the 208 plan is a necessity that has to be addressed, and I believe we can meet the challenge, and we will meet the challenge. Our water is the top priority, the top challenge that we have to deal with, and I don't want to accept anything less than pristine water. So it's not about diluting toxins. It's not about how much we can get away with. It's not even the standard that the EPA or the DEP sets for us. It's a standard that we need to set for ourselves. So I was very pleased to hear that even the wells that were contaminated by the PFOs, the carbon filtration system actually removes apparently like 100% of it. And if we have to filter all of our water, then let's get on with the project and let's make it happen. We need clean, pristine water as much as we can. We need to clean up also the sites that are contributing to that so that future generations can be freed of that obligation. Town government, yes. We are apparently very, very unique as a town to have town councilors. It's a kind of a city form of government without having a town mayor. And when I use the word mayor, I'm finding more and more people agree with that concept, but it also presents this kind of a fear of what a mayor could bring about, which would be a sense of more of a political position. It's all in how you look at it, but what I'm talking about, and this has been done in other cities in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, it's called a soft mayor. So the mayor is the rallying, the champion of the community, if you will. So you can pin whatever our main challenges the main challenges are, onto the town mayor. One of the major functions of the town mayor is to, as far as I'm concerned, is to protect the administration. So that's the highest elected official in the executive branch. We don't really have an executive branch. We have an administrator. We have a town manager, but that position is not elected. So to be perfectly blunt, the town manager is only as good as he pleases the majority of the town council under our current charter. So I would like to see a really charter commission, which is like a constitutional convention, and that's the tool that was used to create the town council. So as good as we are, when you talk about political, when you have 7 or 8 of like-minded people elected, that's all that town manager has to please or unplease to find themselves packing their bags. A soft mayor would protect the administrator or the town manager. The mayor would not actually be running the town. Again, the mayor would have a citizens council, if you will, that would advise the mayor on what's going on within the town. The town manager would not be changed, and the town council would have representation on that council, unless there was a presentation of why there was a necessity to change. For instance, if they were retiring, okay, that would be a reason why you have to go and look for another town manager. But the citizenry would have another avenue to have constant input. I would like the town mayor to be a 2-year term, so every 2 years there would be there, and it's not a popularity contest. It would be, for instance, if I were running for town mayor right now, what I would be saying is pristine water and watch our budget. I feel like we have a great financial position right now, but we have to be looking into the future. We have to look at all the expenses, major capital expenses that we have to be looking at in the future. So we want to watch the budget. We want to be conservative on that, but be looking down the road. But at the same time, right now, the major issue is our water. So yes, I would like to see a change in how we're structured. I love everybody in the council. I get along with everybody in the council. I think we work well together. But there are things that I see that fall through the cracks simply because it's not right there in front of us. We have a tremendous amount of boards and commissions in the town. I don't see where, I mean, we trust our town citizens, and I thank them for coming forward, and we couldn't function without all of their volunteer hours. But at the same time, even within ourselves, we have very little training to be town councilors. I am on the executive board of the Cape and Islands Councilors and Selectmen's Organization, and I use that as a way of learning. I'm meeting with all the other selectmen in the whole region. There's 90 elected officials on the islands, and on the main Cape. So I learned from them what our issues should be, how do we work together, how we can best serve the people that we've been called to serve. I don't see us as politicians. We're really public servants, and if we lose sight of that, then I think we missed the boat. For me, this is not a stepping stone to anything else. I'm kind of stepping down. it's all about being a public service and what we want to leave for our children. So, two sides of that. All of my children have left the Cape. And so would I have come to Cape Cod back then? When we came to Cape Cod, interest rates was 18%. And so the chances that we would be able to buy a house on my salary was non-existent. So when we first arrived, we were looking for a rental. And we actually bounced around. I was a food service manager or a chef at the Crayville Conference Center, is why we came. We answered, we put out a national advertisement. I used to own a restaurant, and we said it was time to move. So my wife and I and our 3 children came to Cape Cod to work at the Crayville Conference Center. And we were actually homeless at first. That was not an intent. But they would bounce us from cottage to cottage while I kept working 60 hours a week until we found a rental. And actually, the first place we found ended up being pulled from under us because the wife rented it to us, but the husband found somebody else. And so we literally were homeless for a while until we found our own place. And so if I had known how difficult it was to obtain housing and how expensive it is on Cape Cod, I might have thought twice about accepting a position here because we had other offers. So all of my children left because they've all gone through the college system. One of our daughters is a PhD, the others both have their degrees, they're working in their fields. And so one has gone back to Fall River, another one close to Fall River, and another one living in Wareham. So when I look at the water problem and I look at the infrastructure problem, that's kind of scary. So until we get some of this stuff resolved, I would not encourage anybody right now to come and make this their home until we solve some of these are major problems that we need to solve, and we can't partially do it. We have to be complete in what we do. So my children have already left, and so. Most exciting day. I think the first time I was elected was the most exciting day for me because I had never envisioned that I would be on the town council. And being on the town council really makes you feel much more part of the community. And I did a lot of work in the community for 25 years. My wife and I, we founded not only Champ Homes, but we were catalysts for a number of social enterprises within the community and very active in the churches. But I think ever since I've been on the council, I certainly have felt much more part of the community. So I think that would be a highlight for me. This precious little free time, Kevin, as you can imagine, and I think that I'm not alone in that. I think that most of us who are still working and taking care of our families and trying to do the right thing and pay the bills and plan for the future, I don't think there's a whole lot of free time for most of us. So I work full time. Carolyn and I operate a redemption center. I have with six employees, including myself. We do millions and millions of deposit cans for people. We redeem them for the public. We serve 7 towns, 7 transfer stations. We serve over a dozen charities that we process product for them and send them the checks. So that's a full-time job. And then the town council, again, is not a minor thing. We look like we just show up and we vote, but there's a lot to that. There's a lot of thought that goes into the whole process. And then I have 3 daughters, and I have 4, with my wife, we have 4 grandchildren, 4 granddaughters. So that keeps us busy. We see them every week. We actually help the parents with some of the babysitting. So we go off Cape once a week to do that. And so by the time you come home at night, you're kind of a little fried. And I wish I could say that I just kind of sit there. I don't watch television, but I just helped reinstitute the historic society, Hyannis Historic Society. We're working at trying to preserve right now as much as we can of Pleasant Street that has old captain's houses on it. So I helped organize that. I filed the paperwork for that. Right now I'm working on our status as a 501c3. The attorney that was going to do it for us is too busy right now, so I'm doing it. So the most fun I'm having, which is something that I put off for a long, long time, is I'm starting to take some art courses. I've dabbled in art for a long time. More in the abstract, but now I'm trying to get down to more. I'd like to do portraits if I could get talented enough to do that. So I just started taking those kind of courses and trying to kind of slow down at the same time that I still see that there's a lot to be done, and I want to keep working at that, but in a way that is more soothing to family life would be really great. It was interesting because I was at Challenge Day maybe 7 years ago now at the high school, and the challenges, they come down, it's about anti-bullying, and you talk to students, so I was one of 200 adults, and we worked together, and at one point they called us the little family group, and so there were like 4 students and myself and a teacher, and with the kids. And at this particular exercise, you were to say something that most people didn't know about you. And so we're sitting there, and most of the youngsters, they all talked about having recently lost a grandparent. And they all burst into tears, each one of them, as they said it, they burst into tears. Just lost my papa, just lost my Mimi, just lost, and it was beautiful to see how attached these young people were to the grandparents. So it was a kind of a message to me. My grandchildren were coming, and wake up call for spend some time with your grandchildren because this is important to them. And I had no idea what was going to come out of my mouth. That I'm a pretty transparent person, and so all of a sudden when it came to my turn, I said, well, I've been involved in trying to make life better for as many people as I possibly can and take care of those who are in need, and housing and food, and I said, well, what most people don't know about me is as an artist screaming together. I mean, I've been on stage, I've actually been on video productions, I've written a small book, I've written a play as part of a script group for a while, but I said, I've pushed all of that down for years and years in order to do the work that I do within the community. But I've pushed that part of me down, and I burst into tears. Of course, the kids, I think, were good prep for this, but so after the art teacher said, Paul, we got to get you dancing because this is not good. And so I think this is a time for me to start to look at that reality. I think my play has a lot of potential, social potential, especially today in this culture. So I have sent it out. I'm going to send it out again to see if I can get the play out, and to feel that artistic part of me come to life. I did at the time. I had a job coach, executive coach that I was working with, and I brought Carolyn up to the meeting. We happened to be at the Champ Homes in 82 School Street, and I said, I've pushed my life down, and I want to be somebody different right now. I need to expand who I am and how I see myself. And the job coach he said, come over here, and we went to the windows, and we looked out on School Street. He said, tell me what you see right now. And I said, well, there's the Reddy House at 75, and there's the LaRusso House at 83, and there's Bridge to Hope in the back, and there's the pavilion with the solar panels. And he said, if you, sir, do not see that as creative, then I can't help you. So that was the turning point for me to start to say, it's up to me what I want to do with my life and what I want to do with the free time when I start to slow down. And so we're just at that point now of looking at other things. But there's still, this afternoon, I'll be working on nonprofit status for the society. But that's creative. And if you look at it as creative, it's a canvas that I have to work on. It's a bunch of government forms, but it's part of creativity too. So I'm feeling better about all of that, yeah. But I don't play sports. I should exercise more, and I'm not into the sports, but I am into the culture. We just went up to the Celtic Sojourn up in Boston. WGBH is, and that's always a blast. And my wife and I have seasons tickets to the symphony, so life is good, even in the fast lane. Okay, Paul Hebert from the village of Hyannis.